One easy, kind of silly, kind of basic idea, but it's surprisingly effective, is to just do show and tell. So if you're getting to know your member or a group of members, have them bring something that is meaningful to them, and then they can just show the item on the camera. So this is my rugby commemorative ball from when I played college. And I played rugby for 6 years, and it was a really important part of my life, and it is something that reminds me when I look at this ball about how tough I can be when I need to be. So you see how simple that is. You can prepare your AmeriCorps member ahead of time to ask them to bring something meaningful, or give them a prompt like bring an object that reminds you of why you care about this specific field, like public health, community health. Or you can just use it in the moment. And I would recommend that if you do that activity, you go first. So you should do it as well. Pick an object, share it, and have that nice back and forth. You'd be surprised how much you can learn in that very simple, quick exercise. Another thing that I would recommend is giving the member some assessments, like there's one where you can figure out what your appreciation style is, or there's communication style assessments such as True Colors, something where they get to learn a little bit more about themselves, and then ask them to bring the results to your check-in and tell you what they learned. So if you can give them that pre-assignment ahead of time, that one gives them a way to dig in deeper, learn on their own, have that autonomous learning that's really important, but then also it gives you a chance to have something more structured to go over in your check-ins. Another thing to do that I would recommend during check-ins is to really let the member lead as much as possible. I know a site supervisor who had a really effective way of doing this, where they had a shared document with their member and they would have specific target of what they would be working on that week, and maybe both what they were hoping to learn as well as actual tasks they were going to be accomplishing. And that gave them that natural structure to these weekly check-ins, where they could pull up that document and say, okay, how did it go? The best advice I've heard for coaching, which would apply in this situation, is to be lazy and curious. Lazy because you really want to let the AmeriCorps member lead their own learning, lead their own task management, but then also curious. So thinking about, what more can I learn? What kind of interesting questions can I ask? And actually, one of the best coaches I ever knew, she just always used the phrase, say more. It's a bit therapist-like, but it's surprisingly effective. If the member just starts talking and they're a little nervous, or they seem intimidated by you or the situation, they're not going into very much depth and you feel like you're always pulling stuff out of them, just try saying, say more, and see if you can get them to open up more. Now, as you are developing this relationship, I will caution that opening up is great. It's great to get to know your AmeriCorps member, but you still also need to respect their privacy and their boundaries, especially when it comes to anything medical or anything having to do with something completely unwork related, like maybe their personal relationships outside of work. I've seen this go wrong a couple of times with site supervisors who were very caring, very interested in making sure their AmeriCorps member was doing well. And so they asked a lot of questions and tried to dig in if it seemed like the member was maybe a little bit off. But that ended up crossing a line, and the AmeriCorps member felt like their privacy wasn't respected. So sometimes it's a delicate balance to be a good listener, to be curious and ask questions, but also recognize if maybe you're diving into a world that's completely unwork related and would be outside of the scope of what you really should be asking about. But just to sum up, check in regularly, have a structured check-in with your AmeriCorps member, let them lead. Figure out how you can let them lead the conversation, lead their own learning, lead their own task management, and when in doubt, be lazy and curious. Ask those open-ended questions and get to know what they're most interested in. What are they surprised by in this new position that they're taking on? And where do they have questions where you can help guide them and let them figure out solutions on their own. Thank you again for listening to today's video, and always thank you for supervising your AmeriCorps member and providing them with that support. We really appreciate it.